Hey everybody, welcome into the New England Ski Journal Basecamp podcast. I'm your host Mike Special with my co-host
Keith Pearson.
What's up, man?
Not much. How you been?
Really good. The skiing, wow. We haven't had a year consistency like this.
That's what you asked for at the beginning of the year, right? You asked for consistency.
Yep.
J-Peak, 38 days in a row with natural snow.
And I haven't been there.
I haven't been there yet either.
I was in Utah, and there was a demo at Brighton, and I wasn't on snow out there, but I heard there were pebbles in the line going back. Skis were getting damaged.
Ooh.
Okay. So as fortunate as we are, Utah is not as fortunate. Sandia Peak
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
in New Mexico
suspended
operations because of lack of weather and snow, and
they had a 3-footer at the beginning of the year.
They opened up earliest ever down there. If everybody remembers, Flagstaff, Arizona Snow Bowl, Sandia Peak, Santa Fe, all opened up early, but they went dry. We have been in a more normal winter pattern from years gone by.
Right. Yeah, this has been fantastic. I mean, 3 to 5 seems like every day. You know, you're waking up and it's not even the heavy stuff.
No.
3 out of 4 of them have been just brush it off the car with your hand.
No, you know what? Unless an anomaly happens, and I hate that word, of course, but yeah, knock on whatever this is,
Yep.
pressed wood. We're going to have a really good spring season. The natural snow is now there,
Which is crazy considering the way it started.
Yeah, we couldn't make snow.
We couldn't buy a 25-degree day.
No, it was really, really rough. But that's the nature of this business, of the ski industry. But this year, the skiing has become really good. Even in Maine, where they were a little dry, they're now coming around.
Yep.
So the consistency is there. So I was driving from Sugarbush down to Killington, or vice versa. I forget which way I was going because I was staying at Killington. And I was driving past all of these ski clubs that I've driven past a zillion times thinking, wow, they're still there. When I went through Rochester, I was like, boy, that is surviving the test of time. You know, we've had ski areas come and go. We've had ski manufacturers come and go, but the ski club survived.
Yeah, I can think of a couple around, that are around the Lincoln area that still going. That they'll put out member drives and stuff like that to try and boost their membership rolls. But yeah, they're still going.
Yeah, well,
and they serve a role for the person who doesn't have the need or the means to purchase another property to base themselves up here so that they can ski 40, 50, 60 plus days a year.
Exactly. New Jersey Ski Club, Connecticut Ski Club, Florida. I guess Florida isn't up here, but it's all of these ski clubs from all over the Northeast.
Yep.
That I really started to think about how have they survived, and really started to reminisce about what they meant to skiing in New England as a whole through the years.
Right. Franconia is the one that I can think of. It's just been around forever.
Yeah, it's been around.
It seems, since pre-tram days, let's put it that way, which is late 30s.
Well, you look at what's happening at Killington right now with the new village. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
Ski in,
Great
ski
golf.
out. Yeah. Or you look at Okemo with when Jackson Gore was built out. The advent here is that people want ski in and ski out in so many instances, but there's a major cost. What's it cost to stay at Spruce Peak at Stowe?
Right.
Okay. When I was driving down Route 100, I truly started to reminisce. And ideas like this come to me for this podcast when I'm driving sometimes thinking, wow, what about this? And so today we're going to go up to Franconia Notch. Okay. I knew about this ski club, but I had no idea it had been around since 1931. Mind-boggling.
Right.
I mean, the history. We're talking through World War II.
Right. These are the guys that graduated between the wars.
Right. They graduated between the wars. They were influential in not only skiing in New England, but skiing across the country. I mean, when you go to the New England Ski Museum, when you walk in there and look at the artifacts or you look at the stories, it's like, wow. Well, this ski club is part of that. I mean, it's amazing. Right. And Franconia Notch, the coldest, one of the two coldest spots in New England.
At least if you were talking wind chill, absolutely.
Yeah. But, I'm excited to talk to Greg. We're going to talk.
Greg Anthony. He's the former president of and bear with me, my German's not the best, the Hochgebirge Ski Club.
Exactly. Is that German or Austrian?
Austrians speak German.
Fair enough. I just, I'm thinking about the Austrian Tyrol village of Minnesota and everything else.
Oh, yeah. And, it's one of those, this place more than some of the other ones probably, they kind of, because it was formed when it was, in that between the war period, it's more like a private golf club. And some of those names, when I was kind of looking it up, a lot of those names look pretty familiar to someone who, knows some of the Brahmin names of town, here in Boston.
Exactly.
Or Harvard hockey.
Or Harvard. And there you go. Well, joining us next will be Greg Anthony. He is a former president of the Hochgebirge Ski Club, or Ski Club Hochgebirge, I should say, up in Franconia Notch. I can't wait to talk to him and hear about some of the history of this iconic club. So we'll be right back after this message.
From skis and snowboards to accessories, apparel, and a full spectrum of winter sports essentials, Country Ski and Sport is proud to offer one of the most diverse selections of superior quality products from the industry's most esteemed brands. Book your custom boot and ski fitting appointment online for a shopping experience tailored for your ski or snowboarding needs. Chat with our experts in store and make the most of your winter experience. If you already own equipment, don't forget to drop it off for a tune-up and get your skis or board back into shape before you hit the slopes. Visit us online at countryski.com or at our locations in Quincy, Westwood, or Hanson. Before you hit the mountain, make sure to hit Country Ski and Sport.
Discover what you've been missing when you visit Burke Mountain, the last little corner of Vermont. Located only 7 miles off Interstate 91, the slopes are closer than you think. Take advantage of their incredible midweek deals like $45 Monday through Friday lift tickets or Wicked Wednesdays, where 3 people can ski or ride for the price of 1. That's right. You and 2 of your friends can ski and ride for just $15 a piece every Wednesday, non-holiday. Incredible. To learn more, book your overnight stay at the Ski In, Ski Out Burke Mountain Hotel or purchase lift tickets. Visit skiburke.com.
Welcome back, everybody, into the Basecamp podcast. Now joining us from Franconia, New Hampshire, Greg Anthony, past president of Ski Club Hochgebirge. How you doing, Greg?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, fantastic. Well, you know what? There's some good skiing up in Franconia right now. I hear Cannon is going off.
It is going off. Unfortunately, I arrived on Wednesday for the fresh snow, and a lift broke. The Peabody lift broke, and Cannon's too cheap to run the tram. And it was like,
I'm a state resident. Be careful here.
and so, unfortunately I wasn't skiing because it was about 9 degrees and the Peabody lift broke at like 10:36, and it took them until about 1:30 to get everybody off. And that could have quite possibly killed me. I mean, I'm an old man. And so, but I mean, I think the mountain did a fabulous job. I mean, they closed the entire mountain and got all the lifties and employees, and they were trying to offload people simultaneously from the chair. But it was cold and windy, and so consequently, DVD didn't run on yesterday, and it blew like 50 from the south, and they shut the tram. Nothing was open. So I didn't get a chance to ski on the first snow yesterday, but that's not why we're here.
Oh, okay. It isn't, but I'm going to give you this. That's why they make skins. Okay. There are times when you got to climb to get it. But so today we're going to talk about ski clubs, and Keith, lead it off.
First of all, hey, you're part of a ski club, and maybe you can give us a little history, but I'm going to guess that those first guys part of that ski club, Hochgebirge, they knew how to take care of those skins.
Yes, they did. And as a matter of fact, I should have gone into the cellar because we have a pair of skins, and they're the real deal. I mean, they have fur on them.
Love it.
And I mean, I did bring some artifacts. We have a little library here, and it's called the Daisy Lounge, and the Daisies were the female not members, but the wives. And but it's turned into their trophies and artifacts all over the club from early on, from 1930 up to the present day. The club was started. The moving force behind the club was a fellow by the name of Alex Bright, and he was I think, as I mentioned prior to the recording, he was a class of Harvard 1919, and he was a top hockey player, but also became interested in skiing. And so he was driving up, and he was not poor. And so, during the Depression, skiing and had picked up skiing. And put together a club, and they gravitated towards racing. But some of the early pictures, and we have a Hall of Fame, that is, in the entryway. And here's one of the charter members, and this is what skiing was like. I don't know if that's in focus.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, that's awesome.
And in our front hall or foyer, all the founders have plaques, and that was a fellow by the name of Stephen Hurd. And he died in 1961, but he was a charter member in 1930. Ski club didn't really get going. This was in December, and it was a bunch of, bachelors that had graduated from Harvard. Alex Bright was a bit older than the rest of them, but formed this club, and it got rolling. That was in December. We still have our annual meeting to celebrate that occasion as the first Tuesday in December. But they got rolling in 1931. And came up with the Hochgebirge Challenge Cup trophy, which is a team race trophy. And originally it was for slalom, downhill, and GS. And I mean, that was in the days before freaking metal edges or any of that stuff. And I have a pair of skis that were over in the corner, and I'm going to step away just for 2 seconds. But
boy, that's a beautiful fireplace.
And
now how's my ass? But I mean, here's a pair of Alex Bright skis, and I'm not going to take them apart, but they're no metal edges. This is all wood, and you can see his boots and the bindings, just a little artifact. And there's also in the corner. Along with his bamboo poles, which, this is like going to the ski museum, but you can sort of see these bad boys, and they're all in great shape. I mean, the leather straps are still there. And
beautiful.
These are from the 1930s. Let me just put this over here.
Can I take that over to Middlesill right now?
What's that?
Can I take that over to Mittersill?
Yeah, well, good luck to you and the Red Sox. You know, and the skis were about 7.5 feet tall and no edges. And the ski club was a collection of decent skiers. But they didn't win their own Challenge Cup until they started the Challenge Cup, which was a team race, as I mentioned. And they didn't win their own Challenge Cup until a fellow by the name of John Lawrence joined the club. And he had gone to Harvard as well. It was kind of a Harvard-oriented club, but not completely. And those were obviously people with money that could ski during the Depression. You know, there were a bunch of famous charter members, but not real race winners. One of which, I have another picture from our Hall of Fame, or shame, as the case may be, is John Sherburne. And, you know, it was the Sherburne Trail, and I'm not sure, this is from World War I, dudes, that picture. He was, and he was a charter member and was instrumental in starting the Inferno. The Ski Club Hochgebirge got together with Joe Dodge over in Mount Washington, and he was tending the huts there, and did an Inferno modeled after a race in Europe. And it was, you know, down from the cone, over the head wall, over the little head wall. And then, you know, eventually John Sherburne unfortunately died from sepsis in 34. But, you know, we all remember him because we probably all skied the Sherburne Trail over at,
yes.
over at, you know, Peckerman's. And so anyhow, but John Lawrence, you know, was not a charter member, but he was the first elected member. And as he liked to say, anybody can start a club, but, you know, to be the first elected member is something. And the ski club it's a bit exclusive in the fact that you have to be nominated and seconded and that. So it's not like, you know, somebody can go to the website and apply. But it's pretty relaxed. You know, funny, I didn't know many of the original charter members, like none, but I did know John Lawrence, and he was an exceptional man. When I first met John, he was very excited to see me, and he was in his 90s. This is back in 2003. And you know, he lived on the North Shore, and really nice place. And he was out in the driveway wanting to, you know, when he, you know, after I had lunch with him a few different times before I made a video of him celebrating our 75th anniversary back then. And, you know, and we're walking back into the house and he's limping, and I'm going, John, you know, what's up? And he goes, damn, wouldn't you know, I lost my good leg. And he'd lost a leg to poor circulation, and he had a prosthetic, right? And over the course of getting to know him, I probably had lunch with him 4 or 5 times, and then got together with Jeff Leach for the New England Ski Museum, and we did a little video, which is on YouTube. And John was an avid skier. He'd gone to Harvard, went to Harvard Law School, graduated in like 30 or 28, 29. And his father was in the textile business. Textiles were down the tubes. And the last thing he wanted to do was get into textiles, into a failing business. So he convinced his parents to send him to graduate school in Munich. But he really loved opera and liked to ski. And so in November of that year, he was over in Munich going to school. He was skiing at Garmisch or wherever, and injured himself badly. And they carried him off the hill. And he went to the local doctor in Munich and said, "You'll be lucky to walk again. You'll never ski." Well, John's parents were friends with the Rommels, like AKA the Desert Fox. This is in the 30s. He went to Rommel's. He went to the Rommels, said, "Hey, can you suggest a good doctor?" And so he went to the Desert Fox's doctor and was skiing again in like 9 months. But then fast forward to when I met him, he said, "Wouldn't you know, I lost my good leg." And so, but he was a very fast ski racer. It was, and 1933, we finally won our own trophy. It was a team race trophy, the Hochgebirge Challenge Cup. And if you bear with me, there's a picture on the wall behind me. Can I grab it and show you?
Sure.
Okay. And it looks a little like the Stanley Cup, except now there are about five more, layers to it because of it's been raced, I don't know, 86 times or something like that.
Wow.
And it's quite something. It's in the New England Ski Museum. It's too valuable to keep around here.
Sure.
You never know.
Well, you stated that you had a 75th anniversary. How old is the club right now?
Well, the club is, approach. This is sad to say. I was president for the 75th anniversary, and that was back in 2005 or something like that. And the title of my YouTube video is a 20-minute interview with John Lawrence with original footage from the 30s and 40s, 50s. So the club's about to be, it will be 100 in 2031.
Okay, so
we're getting there.
You're about 95 right now. Wow.
Yeah,
you don't look that old, Greg. You don't.
Old, guys.
But well, let me ask you this: with all the changes in skiing, how has the club survived? Because that's what we really want to know.
Well, when I first joined, and I was asked to be a member in 1994, and there were still a number of racers. I mean, we'd have our Challenge Cup race at Cannon, and there'd be 30 members. There were probably 110 members back then, and there'd be like 30, 35 Hochgebirge members racing in our Challenge Cup, and they'd form various teams. And there were the Comey's Comets from, Waterville maybe, and there were various other, teams that would attend. But over the years, that's dwindled. And it's become more of a family-oriented club now. Our son learned to ski here, and that started probably back in the 80s, where, it was funny. I have another couple pieces of memorabilia here, but I mean, they publish books every year, and this is from 1938, and it's everybody's race record because they were all racers back then. And so, like say, John, here's John Lawrence, he was fourth in the national downhill at Moosilauke. He was third in the SCH Invitational on Taft. This is in 33. He was third in the Inferno on Mount Washington. I believe that may have been the first year the Inferno was run. And, and it just goes through, this was his race record, right here for that year. And then on the next page, is Robert Livermore, who was perhaps our fastest racer. And he's over on this page. But anyway, you guys probably can't see that. And, and I have one, I have one from 46. Many of these books have disappeared. So that's sort of, so it was really a racing club right from the get-go. But as time went on, these guys all got married, had kids, and it's funny. Another story that John Lawrence told me was that there was a member, Nick Dabney, and he had gone to Austria or Switzerland the year before the first Inferno, like 32. And he bought a pair of the skis of Luigi Ferger. Well, Luigi Ferger was a really fast guy, a really fast skier. And he had a new type of ski, right? And it had it had edges. It had steel under the foot. It had bone and antler, and he described them as things of beauty. And unfortunately, he loaned those to Brad Trafford, who was another charter member, to race in the Inferno. Well, Brad Trafford ran into a stone cairn, smashing the things of beauty. And, and one of the pictures that needs to be reframed, but here's a picture of Brad Trafford with a broken ski from the 30s. And and they were all bachelors back then. And I think there were some racer chasers. So this was in a frame on the wall. The glass got broken for some reason, who knows? And on the backside, when I went to have it reframed, is one of the racer chasers.
Nice. Nice.
But, they all fell in love and got married, and things changed. And now, like I say, their lady members were first included in 1974. So Hochgebirge was a little late to the party, but we've had some outstanding women racers as well. Joni Barthol, who was in various World Cups, and Carolyn Beckendorf, and she was the most recent really fast racer, and so it's it's a long and sort of varied history.
Well, why was Cannon the location? I mean, we had ski trains going to North Conway and stuff, which were much easier. Route 93 was not there back in the old days. Why Cannon?
That's an interesting question. The ski club did not have a clubhouse until 1940. And their first clubhouse, I have no idea where they went up, Route 3, or whatever it is. But they did. And they bought a house. Well, the trouble is they'd be going to inns, and these guys were all bachelors. And I think they were they were asked not to come back because they partied hard.
They partied just as hard.
And so they were kicked out of so many places, they needed their own place. And so they consequently bought the a small house in Osceola, and that was way before Waterville, and would go up there and stay and ski from there and drive from there. Another Bob Livermore, who was perhaps one of our fastest racers and was in the Olympics and on the 36 Olympic team and stuff like that. He, I've lost my train now. Sorry.
No, the train went to North Conway, not to Franconia.
I lost my train. And so anyway, they drive up and Livermore told me, there were no defrosters in those days, and they were and in the cars. And so what they do is they take an onion, cut it in half, and rub it on the inside of the windshield to keep the from freezing up. Believe it or not, and fogging up and in the cold weather. And he said, there were barely really even heaters in the cars. And there's some, I don't know if I don't have any pictures here, but there's some old pictures around the house of these guys, driving in their, 1929 or 30 cars. I'm not sure. Here you can sort of see, this is from one of our yearbooks, but you can sort of see, them, and that's the type of car they were in. Yeah. And so.
How are the snow tires on those?
Put it this way. I think they, have to. And so.
I wonder if they had the same heaters as a Volkswagen Bug back in the days that we all used to drive to go skiing.
Right. Probably less than that even.
Exactly.
So anyhow, as the club's progressed, it's turned into more of a family-oriented club. The newer members, I take great pride in this club because of its history, and there was some significant, our Hochgebirge Challenge Cup was a tryout for the Olympics up until like the 50s. And there was an Eastern and Western tryout. And that all went away eventually as things evolved. But once again, I get lost in my own stories. And there are many of them. And so, here's another picture that I brought up. This was from the Ski Club Hochgebirge had 4 members out of 5 or 6 in the first FIS team, and at the top and that's 1935, and many of those same fellows were part of the first U.S. Olympic ski team in 36 in Germany.
That's awesome.
And
So-
so
How big is the club now? Membership. And let's put it this way: I grew up working at country clubs, so I understand private clubs can, like to keep things to themselves. But like how big is it, and like how much can you?
well, for a while, the membership was declining for a while, and COVID hit us especially hard. We rely, we charge per night, and it's a nominal fee to stay at the club, and there are dues. But all of a sudden that was closed for a year and a half, and quite frankly, a lot of our members were dying because they were so old, and so the club, we cut down to about 60 members, and there was and it's fine. As it's turned out, there were some assessments that were leveled for energy and stuff like that. I became president for the second time right after COVID, and sort of tried to reorganize it. And the dues went up. The dues were pitiful. I mean, they were $200 a year. Well, all of a sudden now they're about $5. And between the lodging revenue, I've also started, our race team has, we only have about 7 or 8 racers in the club now. And that was dwindling. And so I instituted UNH ski team coming to stay here right after the club's open for members through January 1st. And then UNH Alpine team comes and stays at the club for about 9 days, and they pay for the privilege. And the hope is we don't charge them a lot because they are a college team, but the hope is that some of these kids will join our club and join our race team. And so we tried to, create a new feeder system for racing, because I mean, our racers are like 70 and 80 years old. There are a couple of 40-year-olds, but that's about it. I mean, Jesus, how long are these guys going to last? And so we're hoping, we can increase the race membership. But that being said, with 60 members and the new dues, we have 2 years worth of revenue in the bank now. And so if we didn't make a dime, a year and we wouldn't have to worry about stuff. Taxes will get paid, and insurance and all that other stuff. And so, ideally it'd probably be nice to have 90 members. But we'll see if that happens or not. We're in good financial condition. And the house is kept up great.
That fireplace looks fantastic.
Well, yeah, we have a big living room, and this was my wife's great uncle's house. And when the ski club, they'd outgrown the Osceola house, and they had purchased that in 1940. Well, in 1959, there were just too many members and too many people who wanted to stay there. And so, Alex Bright got in touch with Curtis Brockelman, who had my wife's uncle, and he had just gone through a divorce. He had a 400-acre farm here in Franconia on either side of the Gale River. And he had a large house. I mean, there's maids' quarters, and there's, dining room that seats 20, and a giant pantry, and dressing room. There was a master suite with a dressing room. And so Curtis Brocky decided to move into the worker's house because he went through a divorce and didn't need such a large house. And Alex Bright, unbeknownst to the rest of the club, bought it and then sprung it on the club. And so they moved here in about 1959, and it was like the Taj Mahal compared to what they had before. I think a member by the name of Jerry Hunsaker nicknamed it the hockey Hilton. And this is where we are today. And it's just a marvelous house.
It's absolutely beautiful. The fireplace, the pictures, it's amazing. Well,
Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
let's talk about ski clubs as a whole now. You're in one of the oldest in the country, sitting there right now. Can you tell us what your thoughts are? How important are ski clubs to the New England skiing community? And so on.
Well, it provides, well, they certainly aren't as important as they used to be, because, it takes a certain type of person to be here, because it's a shared living experience. And so you really need to be, get along with each other. And so consequently, that's why, it's you have to be nominated in second, because, you're faced with this person, the other people, first thing in the morning, and I don't look that good first thing in the morning. And so, but in the importance of ski, and there were not that many places to stay in the north, and that's why these ski clubs, came about. And that was before condos and on, living on the slopes and everything that I hate about skiing. And I don't like skiing with the yummy mummies, that don't ski that well. And so, and so, and that's why I personally wanted to be around Canada, because there is no lodging on the hill, and it's great. And it was before Mittersill was incorporated. Mittersill existed, but it was defunct for 10 or 12, 15 years, 20 years, maybe. And it provided us a place and the trails were still being maintained to a certain degree by some, a small group of people. But it was all natural snow. And, it enabled my son to be able to go out and out ski his cousins who grew up in Snowbird. Right. In good snow years, we'd hike over the saddle, and, ski, in the mornings. We'd park you'd have to have 3 feet to 4 feet of natural snow in the woods. But, in the mornings before, the first tram, we'd go and park cars at the base of various stream beds. And we'd use the tram to get up to the top, hike over the saddle, and there'd be either Tucker Brook or there's Copper Mine. And you'd come out to your car, drive back to the tram and do it all over again.
Sure.
And it was and it was all natural. Snowmaking in those days just plain sucked. It was like there was, they didn't have the right mixture of moisture to air, and it was a little firm. So, if you could get out, and consequently any natural snow that fell on that got skied off. And so unless you want to sharpen your edges every day, and so that was part of the equation here. And it's, and right now we can start to ski all those things again. It's getting to that point now, in the season. But, in regards to ski clubs and how relevant they are, I don't think they're as relevant as they used to be. We have like-minded individuals. There are there's a sailing contingent that is, we have many of the same hobbies. And so that is sort of kept us together. There are other ski clubs. There's the Schussverein over on the eastern slopes, and they're pretty old as well. And they were a bunch of Boston skiers, and I think they were started in 33 or 34. We are the oldest downhill ski club in this country, and I believe the 4th oldest in the world, behind Ski Hochgebirge, Ski Club Aalborg, Kandahar, and the British Ski Club. And there was the Nansen Ski Club up in Berlin, but they were a Nordic club, and they were ski jumping, but we were, so that's sort of the genesis. There's an interesting story. So the Schussers, they were competitors, and they held races as well. And when it came time to enlarge and buy a new house back in 1959, the ski club wasn't going to the Eastern Slopes because that's where the Schuss was. And heaven forbid we go and associate with those people. They all went to Harvard too. And then there was another back in the 50s. There's the Drifters Ski Club, and the Drifters were the kids of the Hochgebirge members and the Schussverein members who would come up and want to go skiing. They didn't have their own clubhouse. And so they'd alternate between coming to the Hochgebirge and sleeping on the floor and or going to the Schuss and the places where, there were 35 or 40 people sleeping here. And both clubs kicked them out, and they had to form their own club, and it's called the Drifters. And that's how their name originated. Other than that, I'm not that familiar. I mean, I'm a member here, and I know of other ski clubs, but I don't know much about them. I think many of them, they have men's and women's accommodations that are separated. Well, that's not the way it is here. A family will, they're generally 4 beds in each bedroom, sometimes 5 in the master bedroom. And a family will take that over, and occasionally you have to share it with another member. There's the cooler, there's a 2-car garage that's there, and above the garage is a room. And for overflow, so the kids used to have to stay out there. Wasn't heated.
In Franconia. Oh.
Yeah, well, the kids are pussies these days, and they don't, and so now mommy will let them stay out there, right? And so our son stayed out there a little bit, but he was one of the last, and now everybody's, mommy coddled.
Not enough blankets to put on them. So the Challenge Cup, when is it held, and is it at Cannon?
It is at Cannon, and it's in New England. We don't have enough people that are competent enough to run the race. We used to run it up until like 1974, 75. We ran the thing, timed it, set the gates, and did all that stuff. Well, it eventually the management got turned over to the Franconia Ski Club, which is another old ski club. I mean, they were like 32 or something like that. But they don't have lodging. It's not like this club. But we still set the courses even when I was president. And now that's subsequently going away. The race generally was like the 2nd or 3rd week in February, but the Masters schedule is such that this year it was held on I think it was the 20th or 21st of January. And it's held over at Mittersill. And, the FSC has a wonderful facility over there. And they run it for us. And even that Masters, like, oh, it's so sad. I mean, there used to be 100, when I was president the first time around, there were probably 160, 170 racers. I mean, you got 2 runs in, and you were racing until 3:30. It started at 9 and you raced until 3:30, to get that second run in. And now I think this year there were only 60, and the Masters racing is dwindling as well. And so, we've thought about this and what do we do? Is FSC going to want to continue to run this? And so, we're thinking about perhaps turning, it may evolve into something that I shouldn't even speculate on, but it may be for a younger group, maybe college kids, and there's some fabulous, college ski racers in New England. And so, but who knows? We'll see where that's all headed, and hopefully Masters can come back.
All we know is that the ski industry continues to change, whether it be ski clubs, whether it be ski areas. I love your energy towards a Cannon without ski in, ski out accommodations, because that's what keeps, soul into skiing. And I use that word soul all the time. Greg, this was absolutely amazing. Your passion towards that club, your passion towards the history of skiing is amazing.
It's I love looking at that.
Right.
I picture myself in a golf clubhouse right now.
Right. Well, exactly that. But you're both welcome to come up and be my guest, and we're allowed to have guests and come skiing, and check out the club for yourself. Like I say, there are artifacts everywhere. And some of our members, once again, John Lawrence teamed up with Walter Pepke, who was owned a container corporation in Chicago, and who wasn't a skier, and they started Aspen. And some of them were involved with the starting of Sun Valley. And so Alex Bright and Clarita Bright, his wife, were in the first advertisements for Sun Valley. And those pictures are on the walls upstairs in the bedrooms and stuff like that. So it's really I mean, when I first became a member, I went around and just was like looking at all this shit on the walls, and it was like, holy simoleons, and so.
Well, that is awesome. We need to remember that New England, especially post World War II, really drove the ski industry.
It did.
And the club up there was part of that energy that was created.
Well, it's funny because, and I know you're trying to wrap this, but Alex Bright was instrumental in getting the Taft Trail cut, which was one of the first bona fide race trails before they were racing down, Moosilauke Carriage Road and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then he was also in 37, 38, lobbied the New Hampshire State Legislature to build the tram. And, they were talking about building it elsewhere, but he convinced them to build it at Cannon. And when the club moved up here, they referred to it, we're going to Bryce Glacier. We're going to Cannon Mountain because it was notorious for boilerplate back then.
Still is.
So.
Well, I don't come on. When the winds blow through there, it gets pretty firm.
It does indeed.
But it makes you a better skier. Well, we want to thank you, Greg, for coming on. Sharing the history of an iconic ski club, sharing a passion towards what I'll call the soul of skiing, because that's what ski clubs to me brought to the New England marketplace.
Well, it's where it all started, and it caught on, and it became and fortunately it became cheaper, and and not only wealthy people could ski. Well, I'm not sure if it's the same today, but up and through the night, 2000s, it was it became much more affordable. And now, Jesus, you look at the lift tickets and, you go over and it's easy to spend $175, $200, 200 plus and pay for
300, you choose it.
Yeah, right. Who the hell can afford that? I mean, I'm not poor, but and so anyhow, so
well, keep the faith, keep the history and the love of skiing alive through the Hochgebirge Ski Club, because that's what we need for skiing for the future.
Well, we're trying, and so anyway, well, thanks for having me, gents. It was really fun talking to you.
It was fun. It was great learning experience,
and we'll get up there and make some turns with you.
Fantastic. Anytime.
All right. Have a great one.
Take care.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.
Keith, I love a little romance in skiing because that's what I felt like that was.
I didn't realize that there were 2 ski museums in Franconia.
Neither did I.
Yeah, that was pretty cool to see, and that was, it brings you back to the foundations of so many of these ski areas. And when you realize that, Cannon's from the 30s, and it led that push west, Aspen, Sun Valley.
Mm-hmm.
And, the eastern routes that those places have.
Yeah, it's really amazing, when Greg was talking about former members, the founders also, where they came from, what they brought to the skiing community.
How about what they were willing to do to go skiing? Like you and I, we hop in the car, we think nothing of it. Those cars from the 1920s and 30s, They didn't have Blizzaks.
And they didn't have an interstate system.
Right.
Okay, there's a difference. Okay,
and Route 3 wasn't exactly what we think of, like your typical main street going down, through downtown, say Braintree right now.
Sure.
Nice paved pathway.
Sure. I mean, skiing back then was a commitment, was a lifestyle. It wasn't a mega pass. It was a commitment to go to a ski club, in this case, and ski these hills around you. I'm really disappointed in Greg, though. He said a lift was down and he didn't grab skins that were in the basement.
That's
Come
right.
on.
That's right. You can't blame the mountain for the wind blowing 40.
No, you know what? That was a great walk through history, a great walk through a romantic time of skiing, when all of what we have today started back then.
Yeah. And those groups were a big reason why. And it was that next generation that created the boom following World War II, and why we have so many mountains that are going to be celebrating their 60th. Adidas just had their 60th. Ragged has theirs coming up towards the end of March. Next year, you got Waterville, you got Loon. I can't even really think about the North Conway side.
Cranmore, Black.
About 60.
Yeah.
Black's 90 now, so that's in that first group.
Yep.
But yeah, Cranmore's right around 60, right? That mid 60s founding. So just unfortunately, we don't have a third generation of new resorts simply because the money wasn't there to create them.
Yeah, and the skiing population's only so big. I mean, the reality of it is we're definitely not the basketball population.
Correct.
Okay, we just don't have that many people. And it is still, I don't want to say it's an exclusive sport, but hockey and, I always term hockey and skiing are probably the two most expensive sports I know because they're equipment laden.
Correct. And unfortunately for skiing, yes, there is an equipment thing. The price of renting a rink has not gone the way a lift ticket has.
Nope. Well, and a lot of that is because we as consumers, not necessarily me, want higher speed lifts. We want bubble lifts.
Right.
We want heated lifts. We want, and
do we want that? Or does it look nice and pretty on a brochure?
I'll take the Hornet Double at Tenny any day over a high speed 8-pack. Okay? And the only reason being, when I was on it recently, I just stepped back. I enjoyed the day. I looked around. Of course, it wasn't 20 below.
Right.
Okay? I just want to qualify that. But no, I think what Ski Club Hochgebirge gives us is a flashback into what is really soulful about skiing. Just like when you go to Black Mountain, it takes you back to the reality that we all don't have to be glitter. Sometimes we need to come back to community and family and friends, because that is truly what skiing was meant to be.
And like you heard from Greg, they have, so many of those people have similar interests. So it goes beyond skiing at that point, and it turns into a year-round. You're spending more time with those people off the mountain as well.
Exactly. It's that sense of friendship and community lifetime, which is truly what skiing from the onset was meant to be. But
I'm going to go head back into my condo now, and I'll see you later. And, you're going to go into your condo, and we'll talk in 2 weeks, right?
Exactly. That's not the case at ski clubs. So that's going to be it for this episode of the Basecamp podcast. We want to thank Greg Anthony for coming on, and we look forward to seeing you all next week. Have a great one.
New England Ski Journal's Basecamp is a Siemens Media podcast. Siemens Media. Inspiring, informative, insightful.